Right, hello lads and lasses, and welcome back to Boys Down Under, and we are off to a League Cup final, and how bloody good does it feel? Before we get into the video though, please remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It's the best way to help this channel grow, and that just supports me heaps. But without further ado, let's get into it. So, Ange has taken the great Celtic Football Club to the first final available, and Celtic have the opportunity now to win the first piece of silverware on offer this season. The only thing standing in our way is a date with either Hibernian or Rangers. Now, by no means, however, did Celtic make it easy for themselves to get into this position, and it was certainly no walk in the park. It seemed like it would be, however, for the first 10 minutes or so. Jota was absolutely terrorising Sean Rooney and James Brown down that left flank. We even had such a great opportunity, which David Turnbull absolutely butchered. But after that, you thought that more opportunities would come. But surprisingly, they didn't, and that's because the St Johnstone game plan was actually a very good game plan. Their game plan was just to disrupt Celtic. They didn't let us get into, that typical Celtic rhythm that other teams let us get into and leave a flurry of opportunities. What St Johnstone did is it wasn't even with fouling. They'd always get up in our faces and press us, and it never really let Celtic, get into that flow that we're so comfortable in. And, they nearly scored off the back of this disruption type game plan. Michael O'Halloran, he literally almost scored from tackling Joe Hart in the box. Luckily, it went out just past the post. If that went in, though, I would have been absolutely filthy because you could see him coming from a mile away. But luckily, it didn't, and we're not going to dwell on it because there's no need to. But it was a very, very nervy moment for me and my dad when we were watching it. But after that, the first half just, it continued on pretty stock standardly. Like, it just, there were very minimal chances for both teams, and it just kind of went on it wasn't really back and forth, I wouldn't say, but no, it was kind of all just played in the middle of the park. Sometimes you get onto the flank, but other than that, it was goal kicks and middle of the park football. Look, and I think it's testament to St Johnstone because they never let us get into our flow or rhythm, which I'll touch on later. But yeah, we just rolled into half-time. It came and it went, and then the second half started, and you wouldn't have thought half-time had even occurred if you missed it because the game continued very, very similarly to how the first half went. And I think it's just because St Johnstone stuck to their game plan. They saw it was working. They saw they had Celtic not really frustrated, but they had Celtic in an uncomfortable position, in a position we didn't want to be in. And then a great opportunity came. Leo Labada, he had a golden opportunity to volley us in. I think, can't remember the minute of the game, but he had a volley from 6 yards out. Somehow, the St Johnstone defenders got in the way and it went away for a corner. I don't know how Leo Labada didn't score, and I don't know how St Johnstone blocked it. But the score stayed 0-0, and it continued like that. It continued being a game played in the middle of the park. And honestly, I literally thought this is going to extra time, isn't it? I thought, it's going to go to extra time. It's going to go to penalties, and then it's going to be typically Celtic, and Xander Clark is going to save the day for St Johnstone. But it didn't. And St Johnstone had a couple of cracks in range. None of them really challenged Joe Hart. They kept him on his toes, however, but then rolled in the 67th minute, and it was an incredible moment for everyone. Well, for Celtic, at least. The flashlights on phones turning on one by one. You could see it as we were approaching the 67th minute. Just spots of white light flashing up around the stadium, one by one. Then a huge tifo of Birdie Old's face goes up from the Green Brigade, and then boom, flares erupt everywhere. It was an incredible, incredible tribute, and the whole stadium was blasting out 67. And I thought it was incredible. It looked incredible. I can only imagine what it would have been like to be in the stadium. I've seen fan videos, and it looked absolutely so sick. And Celtic nearly scored in that moment. Celtic nearly scored in the moment to tribute to Birdie Old. The Carter Vickers got fouled for it somehow, but Celtic kept on pushing on from that moment, and then the opportunity came. Xander Clark, he has the ball. He skews his clearance from in his own 6 yard box It falls to Jota, who cleverly brings it down. We're not going to talk about in the way he brought it down, but the ball got brought down to his feet. He sprints up down the left flank. He crosses it in, and then amazingly, the St Johnstone defender controls it with his hand, and it falls absolutely beautifully for James Forrest, who absolutely smashes it into the back of the net, and the whole stadium erupted. I'll get onto that. The whole stadium erupted a bit later on, but mental. Such a great moment. The super sub, James Forrest, someone who the commentators literally not even 2 minutes earlier were saying James Forrest is a big game player. He's the player you bring on for these big game moments, and he absolutely delivered. But by no means was the game over from that point. St Johnstone, they kept on pushing, and they nearly scored a couple of times, and Celtic nearly scored a couple of times. But from there on in, from James Forrest's goal, the game became it became like a tennis match. One team would attack, then they'd get countered, and then vice versa. It was very back and forth. The game literally was the polar opposite to what it was in the first half of the game being played in the middle of the pitch. This time, it was being played in end-to-end football. James McCarthy almost literally packed his bags and left the club because he almost gave away possession right in front of goal. Luckily, that didn't amount to anything. Then Joe Hart, literally almost in the last last second of the game, gets caught in possession and goal, somehow gets it away and doesn't find the ball in the back of his own net. But it was done the Celtic way. It was done the hard way. But we ended up getting the 3 points, and that's not 3 points. We ended up getting through the match. We won the match in normal time, no nervy extra time, and we're into the cup final. And Ange has done an absolute monstrous job for this team. And I can't say much more than that. It was a win at Hampton, and it was a win for Bertie Auld, and the tributes to him were absolutely incredible. But let's talk about what we can take away from this game, because certainly there's a lot of things we can, and I think I'm going to hone in on a few specific things. So, firstly, we're going to say James Forrest. I think there's a real strong case James Forrest is making to take the starting right wing position off Liel Abada. And I'm not just saying that because, I'm living off the highs and I'm buzzing about the fact that he just scored the winner for Celtic this morning. I'm going off the fact that the last couple of games, when James Forrest has came onto the pitch, you can see there's a lot more drive and intensity on that right flank. You can see that he's so much more involved in the game in the short cameos he is making in comparison to how much Liel Abada is making in, his whole 70-minute stints on the pitch. Now, that's not to say I think Liel Abada should be kicked out straight away, but I think there is an argument there to say James Forrest should be starting the matches. And Ange said it in his press conference earlier this week. He said, as we all know, James Forrest is in the best shape that Ange has seen at his time being here. And it certainly adds to the argument, would Celtic be better off having James Forrest starting the match and then Liel Abada coming on as the sort of super sub role? And I think it's not only just because James Forrest is more involved in the game, but it takes the pressure off Jota, because right now, every single time Celtic look to go wide, they go to Jota. Every single time, it's always to Jota. And opposition teams are recognizing that, and they're putting two men on Jota to nullify his absolute finesse. So I think if you started Forrest, it drags that opposition defender over, leaving more space for players like Jota, players like Kyogo, because right now, Abada seems very, very quiet and very, very, I don't want to say, he doesn't seem invisible, but he's not noticeable on the pitch. And so it does make me consider whether I think Ange should play James Forrest. Personally, I think just chuck him in, start him against Leverkusen and see how he goes. I don't think there's any harm in doing that. Obviously, there's the risk of him getting injured, but I still definitely think that he could certainly make a more positive impact on this team than Liel Abada, because as we all know, Abada is still young and he's still got a lot of developing to do as a player. Forrest is experienced and he has so much class and finesse. He's fully developed into the footballer he could be, and he's really, really good. Despite being injury prone, give him a shot, I reckon. Now, the second thing we're going to talk about is that we need Tommy Rogic back. Now, this is also kind of leading on to the fact that we don't have enough creativity in the team, but as I said earlier, you can see Jota's getting the ball every single time. And that's because he's the only creative spark right now in this team. Turnbull's trying his best, but every single opportunity Celtic are getting nowadays comes from that left flank of Jota, whether he's scoring it, whether he's setting it up, it all comes from Jota. And we need Tom Rogic to provide that second attacking outlet, because otherwise teams recognise that and they shut down the one attacking option Celtic have. And I think it's not just only the fact that we need a second attacking outlet, such as Tom Rogic, we also need squad depth, because I looked at the next fixtures we have, and I'm sure you guys all know, we have 6 fixtures in the next 17 matches, 2 of which are European matches. So it's going to involve some travelling, and I think Celtic really need squad depth, because that equates to just under a game every 3 days. So the lads are going to be buggered, and we need Rogic back in that team to provide that depth. And that goes for Starfelt, Julien Taylor as well. We need that squad depth to allow rotation, because otherwise players are going to get burnt out. Injuries are going to occur, and heading in to Christmas time and heading into January the 2nd, the last thing we need are players injured and players being burnt out. Look, I think it's certainly that we need Rogic back purely for the attacking sense, but I think I'm going to extend that to the whole squad. We need our players fit, like Julien Taylor, Rogic, Starfelt, to provide that squad depth, and I think there'll be a lot of signings in January to help improve that as well. But into the third and final thing, and I touched on it earlier, but Celtic have the best fans in the world. And it's not just the Green Brigade. It's not just their tifos and displays. It's the whole Celtic supporter base. Everyone putting their flashlights on, making the stadium rock. Literally, as I said earlier, literally every time, I didn't say this, but every time the camera would zoom in on a player taking a throw-in, it would not be still. The whole stadium was shaking these cameras. And when the ball went in the back of the net from James Forrest, that had the stadium absolutely erupted. The TV erupted. Literally, the whole, it was absolutely incredible. And I think it's testament to not only the fans who travel and go to these games and provide that atmosphere, but also the fans at home, like us in Australia, like the people who can't get to the games. We have the best fans in the world, and it was on display tonight. It was absolutely mental, and I can't speak highly of us any more than that. But look, that is all from me. We got the win. We did it for Bertie. We're on to Aberdeen in our next league match, first home match after the passing of Bertie. There'll be more tributes there, but there's not much more to say. Celtic are through to the League Cup final, and Ange has a golden opportunity to win his first piece of silverware for this great club. But remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave in the comments below who you think your man of the match was, leave in the comments below what you thought of the match. I'm going to say it right now, my man of the match was Jota. I quickly forgot to mention that, but remember to subscribe, remember to like the video, and until next time, hail, hail.